There once lived a poor boy named Aladdin in a bustling city in the ancient East, where golden domes sparkled in the sunlight and the marketplace buzzed with merchants selling spices, silks, and treasures from distant lands. Aladdin lived with his widowed mother in a tiny, crumbling house at the edge of the poorest quarter of the city. They had very little money, barely enough to buy bread each day, and life was hard. But Aladdin's mother loved her son dearly and worked her fingers raw sewing and mending clothes for wealthier families, trying to keep them both fed and sheltered. Aladdin was a good-hearted boy, but he had never learned any useful trade or skill. His father, a poor tailor, had died when Aladdin was young, before teaching him the family business. So Aladdin spent his days wandering the marketplace, dreaming of adventure and a better life, watching the rich merchants in their fine clothes and wondering what it would be like to have enough gold to never worry about where the next meal would come from. He wasn't lazy exactly, but he lacked direction and purpose, not quite knowing how to change his circumstances or make something of himself. One day, as Aladdin sat in the marketplace watching the world go by, a stranger approached him. This man was dressed like a wealthy merchant from a far-off land, with expensive robes and a knowing smile. He looked at Aladdin carefully and then said something that made the boy's heart leap with surprise. "You must be the son of Mustafa the tailor. I can see your father's face in yours. I am your uncle, your father's brother, who has been traveling in distant lands these many years. I've only just returned and heard of my dear brother's death. You and your mother are my only family now." Aladdin had never heard his father mention a brother, but the stranger seemed so sincere and spoke so convincingly about family memories that Aladdin believed him. The truth was that this man was no uncle at all, but a powerful and wicked sorcerer from a land far to the west. He had traveled for years searching for something very specific, a certain magical lamp hidden in a cave, and a boy pure of heart who could retrieve it for him. Through his dark magic, he had discovered that Aladdin was exactly the person he needed. The false uncle treated Aladdin and his mother with great kindness over the next few days, bringing them fine foods and new clothes, filling their home with laughter and stories of distant lands. He promised to teach Aladdin a respectable trade and make something of him. Aladdin's mother was overjoyed to have family helping them, and Aladdin himself was excited about the possibility of learning and growing and finally having a path forward in life. After several days of this generous treatment, the sorcerer told Aladdin he wanted to take him on a special journey. "There is a place I must show you," he said mysteriously, "where you can help me retrieve something valuable, and in return, you will have riches beyond your dreams." Aladdin, trusting this man he believed to be his uncle, eagerly agreed. They set out early one morning, walking far beyond the city walls, through rocky terrain and barren hills, until they reached a desolate valley that Aladdin had never seen before. In this lonely place, the sorcerer stopped and began gathering sticks and stones. He built a small fire and threw strange powders into the flames, chanting words in a language Aladdin didn't understand. The smoke rose thick and black, and suddenly the earth began to tremble beneath their feet. Aladdin watched in amazement and growing fear as the ground split open, revealing a large flat stone with a brass ring set into its center. The sorcerer's friendly expression had changed to something intense and hungry. "Beneath this stone," the sorcerer said, his voice trembling with excitement, "lies a cave filled with treasures beyond imagination. But only you can enter it, Aladdin. Only a boy like you, with a pure heart and no greed in his soul, can walk through that cave safely. I am too old and too tainted by the world to enter. You must go down, walk through the gardens of jeweled trees without touching anything, and bring me a simple oil lamp you will find in a niche at the far end. Do not take anything else, no matter how tempting. Just bring me the lamp, and I will make you rich beyond your wildest dreams." Aladdin felt afraid but also thrilled by this adventure. With trembling hands, he pulled on the brass ring and lifted the heavy stone. Below was a staircase leading down into darkness. The sorcerer placed a ring on Aladdin's finger, saying it would protect him, and urged him down the stairs. Taking a deep breath to steady his courage, Aladdin descended into the mysterious cave. What he saw when he reached the bottom took his breath away. The cave opened into enormous chambers filled with the most incredible sights. Trees grew there, but instead of leaves and fruit, they bore jewels of every color, rubies red as blood, emeralds green as spring grass, diamonds clear as water, sapphires blue as the sky. The branches glittered with treasures worth more than all the gold in the Sultan's treasury. Piles of gold coins lay scattered on the ground, and chests overflowed with precious gems. Everything sparkled and shone in a magical light that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Aladdin understood what he needed to do. He used the lamp's power wisely and cleverly. He had the genie create him fine clothes worthy of a prince, a magnificent procession with servants and guards, and treasures to present to the Sultan. When Aladdin arrived at the palace, he looked every bit the part of a wealthy and powerful prince. But more importantly, he spoke with wisdom and courtesy, showing respect and genuine character. He didn't rely only on the lamp's magic to win approval. He used his own mind, his own words, and his own growing wisdom. The Sultan was impressed not just by Aladdin's apparent wealth but by the young man himself. Princess Jasmine, when she met Aladdin, saw someone who treated her with respect, who listened to her thoughts and ideas, who valued her mind as much as her beauty. She found herself drawn to this mysterious young man who seemed so different from the arrogant princes who usually sought her hand. The Sultan agreed to the marriage, and Aladdin used the lamp to create a magnificent palace overnight, more beautiful than any building in the kingdom. When people woke the next morning and saw this architectural marvel that had appeared as if by magic, they could hardly believe their eyes. Aladdin and Princess Jasmine were married in a celebration that the whole kingdom enjoyed, and they began their life together with genuine love and respect. Aladdin proved to be not just a husband but a true partner to Jasmine. He valued her intelligence and sought her counsel. She, in turn, appreciated his kindness and the way he used his resources to help others. Together they worked to improve conditions for the poorest citizens, to support education and healing, and to bring justice and fairness to the kingdom. Aladdin never forgot his own humble origins or the struggles of ordinary people. But the story doesn't end there, because the evil sorcerer eventually learned that Aladdin had not died in the cave and had somehow kept the lamp. Furious and determined to possess the lamp for himself, the sorcerer traveled to Aladdin's city in disguise. He learned that Aladdin was now a prince living in a magnificent palace, married to the Sultan's daughter, and he realized the boy must still have the lamp and be using its power. The sorcerer came up with a clever and wicked plan. He obtained a collection of beautiful new lamps and went through the city calling out, "New lamps for old. I'll trade a shiny new lamp for any old lamp you have." People thought he was crazy to make such an unfair trade, but some took advantage of his apparent foolishness, trading their old lamps for new ones. Princess Jasmine, who didn't know the true source of their fortune because Aladdin had kept the lamp's secret, heard the lamp trader calling in the street. She saw what she thought was just an old, ordinary lamp sitting on a shelf in the palace and thought this would be a perfect chance to get a nice new lamp at no cost. Innocently, not knowing what she was giving away, she traded Aladdin's magic lamp for a new one. The moment the sorcerer had the lamp in his hands, he rubbed it, and the powerful genie appeared. "I am your master now," the sorcerer said with triumph. "Take this palace, with the princess inside, and transport it to my home in Africa. Leave Aladdin behind." In an instant, the magnificent palace vanished from its foundation, leaving only bare ground where it had stood. Princess Jasmine found herself trapped in a palace that had been magically moved to a distant land, with the evil sorcerer now in control. When Aladdin returned and found his palace and his wife gone, he was devastated. The Sultan, believing Aladdin had used some trick to deceive them all, threatened him with death if he didn't bring the princess back within 40 days. Aladdin felt despair crushing him, but then he remembered that he still had the magic ring on his finger. He rubbed it, and the genie of the ring appeared. "Can you bring back my palace and my wife?" Aladdin asked desperately. The genie shook his head sadly. "I cannot. The genie of the lamp is far more powerful than I am, and it was his magic that moved the palace. I cannot undo what he has done." Aladdin's heart sank, but then he asked, "Can you take me to where they are?" The genie nodded. "That I can do." In a moment, Aladdin found himself transported to the distant land where his palace now stood. He managed to sneak inside and found Princess Jasmine, who was overjoyed and relieved to see him. She told him everything that had happened and how the sorcerer now kept the lamp with him at all times, guarding it carefully. The sorcerer had been trying to force her to forget Aladdin and marry him instead, but she had been cleverly stalling, pretending to consider his proposal while secretly hoping for rescue. Aladdin and Jasmine put their heads together and came up with a plan that would require courage, cleverness, and perfect timing. Jasmine would pretend to finally agree to marry the sorcerer and would ask him to celebrate with her. She would give him wine mixed with a sleeping powder Aladdin had obtained. Once the sorcerer was unconscious, Aladdin could take back the lamp. The plan worked perfectly. Jasmine was a brilliant actress, convincing the sorcerer that she had finally accepted her fate and was ready to celebrate their upcoming marriage. The sorcerer, delighted and unsuspecting, drank the drugged wine and soon fell into a deep sleep. Aladdin emerged from hiding, found the lamp on the sorcerer's body, and rubbed it. The genie appeared and bowed to Aladdin. "Take us home," Aladdin commanded, "and make sure this evil sorcerer can never threaten us again." The genie transported the palace back to its original location, with Aladdin, Jasmine, and all their servants safely inside. The sorcerer was dealt with in a way that ensured he could never harm anyone again. When the Sultan woke the next morning and saw the palace had returned, he was overjoyed and welcomed Aladdin back with apologies and celebration. From that day forward, Aladdin and Princess Jasmine ruled wisely and well. Aladdin had learned that the lamp's power was a tool, but it was his own courage and cleverness that truly made the difference in his life. When he had been trapped in the cave, it was his courage to stay calm and his presence of mind that saved him. When he sought to marry Jasmine, it was his cleverness in presenting himself properly that won approval. And when his palace was stolen, it was his courage to pursue it and his cleverness in making a plan with Jasmine that won the day. He taught these lessons to the children who eventually came along, passing down the wisdom he had learned. "Magic and luck can help you," he would tell them, "but it's your own courage to face challenges and your own cleverness in solving problems that truly determine your path in life. The lamp gave me opportunities, but it was how I chose to use those opportunities, how I grew as a person, and how I faced each challenge that made the real difference." Aladdin used his resources to build schools and hospitals, to support orphans and widows, to ensure justice for all citizens regardless of their wealth or status. He never forgot his humble origins or the struggles of ordinary people. He and Jasmine became known as the most beloved rulers the kingdom had ever known, not because of magical powers but because of their genuine care for their people and their wisdom in solving problems. The magic lamp eventually passed into legend, but the lessons of Aladdin's story lived on. It became a tale told to teach young people that no matter how humble your beginnings, no matter how impossible your dreams might seem, courage and cleverness can open doors you never imagined. Having resources helps, certainly, but it's what you do with those resources, how you treat others, and how you face challenges that truly defines who you become. And so Aladdin, who had started life as a poor, aimless boy in the marketplace, became a wise and beloved leader, not through magic alone but through the courage to seize opportunities and the cleverness to make the most of them. His story reminds us all that we have more power to change our circumstances than we might think, and that facing challenges bravely and solving problems cleverly can transform not just our own lives but the lives of everyone around us.